narrowing down my top five of the year for Devolution magazine was pretty challenging. But then, in the dying breaths of 2024, came "The Wolf Changed Its Fur, but Not Its Nature" by Crippled Black Phoenix, which immediately became my album of the year. And yes, I'm here with Justin from the aforementioned band. How you doing today, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, you just said it was your album of the year. That blows me
Yeah,
away.
man. Yeah. We did our end of the year lists, and yeah,
Oh
you're
wow,
fine. So I've made it
wow.
my
Well,
mission.
thanks anyway.
I've made it my mission to work through that list and try and talk to everybody on it. So
Right. Oh, cool.
starting with yourself. So it's an absolutely extraordinary record. Even by your standards, it opened up this Pandora's box of like your discography, which is 12 albums and some.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've tried to work my way through most of it. It was just a very striking record. Played like to my ears like a soundtrack to a movie that I haven't seen. Was that the intention?
Well, I guess that's it. That's the kind of unwritten, unspoken intention of every album. I think it's always a case of making a bunch of songs make sense and take you somewhere else. Like, I mean, for instance, I'm far more influenced by films and anything cinematic than I am bands and music and listening to music or whatever. So that's always like that's the biggest influence. So when we make an album, it's kind of that way inclined anyway to make an album that's the soundtrack to a movie that doesn't exist.
That's
So it's always like I say, it's always the unspoken brief. Um,
absolutely, yeah.
so in doing this one, of course, the approach is the same without even realizing it, I guess, by now, because essentially the Wolf it's a collection of reworked old songs, but it still has to make sense of it as an album.
Mm,
That's why some of them are reworked, some of them are more or less untouched. It's whatever works. You know,
absolutely.
so there's different reasons for doing each song, and there's different methodology and everything else. But on the whole, I guess, yeah, it has to have dynamics. It has to work as an album. There's no point in just putting a bunch of songs on there, re-recorded just for the sake of them.
I love it when that happens.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there feels like there's a narrative, especially. I mean, you've done this. This is a sort of trademark of your albums. It's the little vocal samples between tracks and stuff like that. I love it. I mean, it really sets the scene, like especially the cackling sort of little like old wizard or whatever at the beginning. I wanted to ask you a couple of things about the record because as a producer myself, there was a couple of things that like just caught my ear immediately. Like
right.
there's like the first track on the album, this beautiful big 11-minute track, We've Forgotten Who We Are, um, ends really abruptly. You
Yeah,
crop it at the
yeah.
end.
People didn't like that. I got a load of shit for that.
Which obviously that's a
Oh,
move on purpose. I thought it was
yeah.
genius because it is startling.
But it's not. But you see, we got accused of just like the song just cuts off. But and it's like we want to hear the end of the song, but that is the end of the song because if you listen to the original, that's where the song finishes. If we play it live, that's where the song finishes. We all we did was crop half a like a beat, like half
Yeah.
a beat. That's all it is. It's the minute. But all we did was just crop it dead.
Yeah, and the track at the end of the album, like crescendos into a lot of like sort of bit crushing and
Yeah.
noise. And was that to sort of bookmark that, bookend that?
Um. Not specifically. It was basically the original of that song.
Mm,
That was the first ever song we recorded. Even before the first album, there was a 10-inch,
wow.
Sharks and Storms 10-inch. And then we kind of remixed it a little bit for it wasn't really any different, but we took,
Mm,
we put it on the album and then mixed it with the album songs as well. But the original version of that, and that was, we just kept on distorting because it was all analog mixed,
mm.
which is great. And there was myself and Stu Matthews and Jeff Barrow all on the the faders of the desk, three of us,
Wow. Love
and
that.
we were just farting about. We were just like making each other laugh, doing stupid shit. And that song particularly, we just kept on distorting everything towards the end. So
Yeah.
re-recording it, I didn't want to just make it regular. So that's why it all got kind of crushed and everything else. Yeah, it just basically, it's supposed to just end in a mess, really. But I'm glad you picked up on the samples, because it's like a big thing for me, but it's not such a big thing for most people. It's like, oh yeah, just these little things. But I find a lot of joy in those little details in the samples and all the hidden. There's so many hidden things in the song that nobody will ever hear. It's like, on one song, and I won't say which one it is, there's some sort of kind of double drumming kind of thing going on in the middle of it, and I'm playing Kings of the Wild Frontier by Adam and the Ants.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm doing the clicks, the stick clicks.
Yeah, right.
Chick, jack, that. And that's all the stuff like that. It's always in the song, so I know it's there. No, but nobody.
I think I know where that is as well. I'll have to go back and check.
Okay. Oh, cool. I'll test you.
Another thing that's beautiful about your band, which I really like, is you almost feel like you're getting two bands for the price of one, because when Belinda takes the vocal, the tracks take this sort of classic rock kind of. It's a beautiful sound. She's been a constant in the band for quite some time, hasn't she?
Yeah, 2011 technically, yeah, because I met her through a mutual friend, but she did some guest vocals at first. So you can say from that moment on, but she didn't just come and do guest vocals and go away. She came and did guest vocals and then kept doing and did more and more. So yeah 2011 was that. So yeah, we've been partners in crime since then, basically.
Yeah, no, incredible voice. And it really reminds me of like Ann Wilson of Heart or something like that,
Oh, right. Oh, cool. Oh, I looked at Barracuda for doing a cover version this time for the new Honorifics, but it was...
Oh, man, we'll get onto that.
Too many bands did it, but anyway, go on.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I understand with the male vocals, have you settled now for a more sort of permanent fixture on the male vocals?
No.
Is that still guests?
It's still guests. I think I'm just going to carry on doing that. If somebody's going to come and be a permanent male vocalist, it has to be completely organic. It has to just happen naturally. It's such a difficult thing to do, and I think I've learned my lesson now, because I mean we've had a lot of people doing vocals, loads, but we've only two proper male vocalists, which Joe Volk and Daniel. And there's been people standing in and helping out in between and everything. But and then Joel came along, and that was the third, so he was going to be the sort of permanent vocalist. But I mean, no issue or anything between us and Joel, nothing at all. Still friends. But he decided that he couldn't take just being in a band in general. He has his own demons, you have to understand. But he bowed out, understandably. Don't have any problem with that. But the timing of it, it was when the first day in the studio, and I had everything prepared, and he had his songs to do, and then I ended up with no vocalist for those songs, which is why Justin Storms and Ryan stepped in for the Wolf and the Honorifics, which again, great guys. Makes total sense, especially with Ryan, because he'd played bass in the band on tour and he'd sang on Cry of Love and all that. But before that, the same thing happened with Daniel. He decided to quit again. It was literally when we was going into the studio to do Ellengeist.
Right.
That's why there was all guest vocalists on Ellengeist, you see.
Right.
It turned out to be a great idea, but it wasn't planned.
Well, sometimes these things just turn out that way, don't they?
Well, it's fortuitous, because actually we ended up in a better place. I'm kind of glad. I'm not here to disrespect anybody.
No, of course.
Not at all. But when somebody lets you down, and not for any good reason, I'm glad that it turned out for the best for us. Because it wouldn't have been very sporting if we'd suffered because of it. Because of some guy just letting us down at the last minute.
Sure.
Anyway, sorry, I digress. But my point is that I've learned my lesson now. And I don't trouble is I don't really have the trust
Mm.
just to go, okay, you're the new guy. I just don't have that level of trust anymore. So it's going to probably take a long time, which Storms can step up and do the vocals. He's doing it on the, we're just mixing, or we're just finishing off. We're doing the vocals now on the new album.
Wow.
So, yeah, so, you know, Ryan and Storms are stepping up again, Belinda, obviously. So, same formula as the Wolf, basically.
Awesome.
Yeah, and, you know, and they can Justin can come and do the live. He did the live shows this year. We didn't do many, but the ones we did with him were absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And I've never felt so comfortable on stage. So that's your male vocalist situation.
Fair play. Well, no one can accuse you of being not prolific. I mean, we've had 2 albums in the last 12 months. You know, there's the Horror Honorifics Part 2. Now, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this because there's some great songs on here. One that sticks out to me, and this sticks out to me because my second band I ever saw live as a youngster was New Model Army. And you've done Vengeance on this. What was the thinking behind that?
That was actually there's only been 2 bands ever that we've supported on tour. And that one was Converge and one was New Model Army. And showing me age now, in my youth, in my teens, I grew up with very early New Model Army, was there, you know, from the beginning kind of thing. But thanks to my sister, because she's like 4 years older than me. So her and her friends in bands, they were all in kind of punk and new wave bands and stuff at the time. And that's what dragged me into the punk scene.
Sure.
So I was quite young and I was kind of brought up. And New Model Army were one of the very early ones, and I've stayed a big fan of New Model Army ever since. So when we're talking, you know, mid-80s, by the time 2009 came around, I'd lived with this band all my life, and we got asked to go on tour with them. So, of course, yes. And we got on really, really well. Great guys. And one day I was said to the other Justin how much I'd always wanted to do a cover of Vengeance, even with my old bands.
Yeah.
But I'd never got round to it, and I didn't know if it was cool, because I remember they didn't play it live for a long time because somebody got stabbed at the show when they were playing the song, and there was this big backlash about it. And I was talking to him about it, and he says, "Oh no, we've started playing it again. There's no problem." So I said, "Okay, so like if we do a cover version, it's cool." He's like, "Yeah, of course, you know."
Awesome.
That was 2009, and it's taken me this long again to actually get around to doing it. So there you go. There's the story behind that. There's a very good reason behind that one.
Absolutely. And there's another band definitely from my 90s years that had a big influence on me. Fugazi, you've done Blueprint.
Yeah.
Fantastic band. In fact, I only just I found a t-shirt the other day, Repeater t-shirt in Portsmouth. I had to grab that as soon as I saw it.
Yeah. Oh, the first 2 EPs and Repeater, that was like a golden era. That was, you know, there was them, and around about the same time, No Means No, and although another band covered, but yeah, I mean that is definitely just a tip of the hat to a very, what shall I call it? Kind of like a homely feeling kind of time of my life. You know, it's like that. That was probably one of the best times in my life, that sort of late 80s, early 90s, probably.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's been a bit of a swing back towards that sound. I saw Jesus Lizard Only the other day.
Oh, yeah.
And, noise rock, as we used to call it back in the day.
Noise rock is my favourite music, basically.
Yeah, me too.
My favourite band is, well, they're not noise rock, but No Means No are my favourite. But I'd say like God Bullies and Hammerhead. A couple of my favorite bands in the world ever, you know.
I mean, there's Deep Purple on here. That's incredible, because I thought that was a great addition, because there's especially on what's it? You Put the Devil in Me. A bit of the guitar tone there reminded me a bit Deep Purple-y. So when I saw the inclusion of Deep Purple, I thought, was that a nod to
that? Not really. That was a random cool song that me and Belinda really like. And then we were talking about, I have a bit of a long short list, if you like, of songs that I always put there when I listen to a song, and I'm like, oh, I'd love to play this song. it
Mm.
goes on the list.
Hmm.
And then every so often we'll look at it and we'll say pick a song from that kind of thing,
Yeah.
or there'll be a new idea. Like say for instance, the Laura Branigan song "Self Control."
Mm.
Belinda just came out of the blue with that one completely, out of the blue, and it just I loved it. I loved the idea. It made complete sense, of dark vocals and all that. So some
Mm.
of them are like a random idea that pops up. Some of them, like New Model Army or No Means No, means a lot for me personally because it's from my past or there's a good reason to do it. And
Mm.
some of them, the songs we like, picked from the list. So the
Fair.
deep one was one of those.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But
Now,
the guitar stuff, yeah, the end of the sort of the jam at the end of
yeah.
you put the devil, yeah.
Yeah, well, you kind of had like deep purpley sort of, or maybe like Freebird vibes, a little bit of that,
I was, yeah, it has that kind of West Coasty jam kind of
Yeah.
at the end. Yeah, totally. Not so much
Another,
Freebird because we're not rednecks, but
well, no, obviously. I mean, another beautiful addition to the record is I'm a big fan of dark country sort of
yeah.
stuff, and there's some moments in there that are just absolutely deliciously country. Is that like a influence on the songwriting process? Bit of country in there?
I mean, I do like say the darker country,
Mm,
all the roots. I like really the rootsy stuff as well. Blues
mm,
and country and bluegrass. But I don't play that music because if I played it, it's not authentic because
yeah,
I'm not from that time and place.
no.
So I love Americana. I love the real kind of gothic Americana stuff as well. But some of that's got a bit cheesy as well. But really authentic stuff.
Mm,
I wouldn't want to try and replicate it completely. I try
mm.
and pay my respects to
Yeah,
things.
off the cap.
Yeah, yeah. Play something out of pure respect, out of that sort of style, but do it. You know, it's like it's hard to explain. It's like when we do a cover version. Very rarely do we stray very far from the original
Mm,
because I feel like it's your ego's taking over. If you take a song and you change it, or if you take a genre of music and you try and replicate it, but like do your own thing with it, it's like an ego trip. It's like, oh, I've
mm.
taken this and I think I'm doing better or something.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, it's a fine line to tread, but that's the way I feel about it. I don't
Hmm.
want to do a cover version and then just completely do a whole different version of it because
Mm,
I'm trying to turn it into my own song. But no, I'm doing a cover version because I respect the original and I want
sure.
to play the original. And
Mm,
it's a shout out. It's like some people have said to me that they wouldn't have known about certain bands if we hadn't done a cover version of the song, and that's brilliant. It's like making a mixtape of your favorite music for your friends.
that's great. Yeah, yeah.
It's a beautiful thing about music. It's like that's the way we share, you know.
Right.
So that's the really sort of the motivation behind it, really. So the thing about the sort of dark country, it's yeah, I'd like to pay my respects, but I wouldn't want to go fully into that.
Mm,
So it's tricky, really. I think it's just trying to take on board your influences from everything from all your life and channel that into what you play without really having to think about it too much. And
absolutely.
I think if I start thinking about it too much, it turns out shit.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that comes with experience as well. When you realize that you should really be just writing for what feels right to you, and then the audience will come around to your way of thinking rather than writing for an audience what you think they'll want, because it generally comes up short if you do that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean that was probably the biggest motivator when I left Wizard and did this. I mean, I started CVP before I left Wizard or whatever, but I, they wanted to just do Dope Throne over and over again,
Mm,
and you know, I'd spent so many years in bands playing music that everyone expected us to play. Even with
mm,
iMonkey, even with those old bands.
mm,
No, regardless if I love that music,
mm.
don't get me wrong, but it was always having to play the same thing. You couldn't stray out of it. And
Yeah.
it's just a personal thing. Personally, I just felt like playing whatever I felt like playing. It didn't have to be anything. It didn't have to be super heavy or super aggressive or whatever.
Mm.
It could be what it is. And I didn't. So at that moment on, I didn't care. I didn't care how it comes out, as long as it comes out, which is why you can hear a real progression through, especially the early albums. It's like I didn't know what the fuck I was doing for so long. I just
Mm.
thought I'll do it. I'll just do what I feel like doing. So I think if you listen to the albums in order, you can literally hear me finding my way.
Yeah. But the overall blueprint and the identity will come from the players involved. I think so. A large part of the sound is the fact that you're playing it, isn't it? Like,
uh, yeah, because as far as the players go, they all, because so many different people, there's that misconception about so many ex-band members.
mm,
But never really been a conventional band. It's like people have come in and helped out, played on one tour, played on an album or whatever, but they've never been in the band and they've got their own things. So it
mm,
looks like there's a lot, but actually it's like, you know, technically session musicians really.
mm.
But that's not taking anything away from a tour, because every time we present it, each person, they've all been super talented musicians and they all put their own little magic dust on it.
Mm.
You always have a slightly different sound here and there, especially when we played live,
Mm.
with the lineups and everything. I think the reason why it always sounds like CVP is just it's simply because I write the stuff,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely. So that would be the blueprint.
apart from the lyrics and the
Mhm.
vocals, I don't do any of that. I only write the music, but
Mhm.
because I've done it from day one, and I'm the only person who's done it really for the
Mm.
99.99% of it.
Mhm.
I think that's why it's remained kind of in the CBP box, but
Mm.
it could literally come out as anything, and it could
Absolutely.
sound different because amazing people have come and played on it and stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because that's one thing that gets me, like, because I have done that deep dive on your back catalogue, and it all does sound like you, and it doesn't sound like anyone else. It's unmistakably Crippled Black Phoenix. In the same way, like Godspeed sound like Godspeed, and like,
Mm-hmm.
Mogwai sound like Mogwai. You can't mistake them for anyone else. I understand also, as a side note, that member of Mogwai was quite instrumental in your early days as well. Is that true?
Well, yeah, well, Dominic was in the band
Yeah.
from day one, since I went and did the first album until 2009, I think.
Yeah.
And obviously Mogwai were getting so busy, and it was, and we started to get a bit busier at that point. Obviously, Mogwai are up here, we're
Mm,
still underground band, but both bands sort of got busy, and so he couldn't really dedicate all the time that he wanted,
mm,
which is totally fine. But yeah, it was thanks to him, Costas, uh, from who does Pantheist.
hmm.
It was Dominic and him really that kept coming round to my house, and we kept fighting about with the demos that I was making. And then yeah, most people know the story, but then Jeff,
Yeah, Jeff Barrow.
he I knew him. I'd met him through another gig anyway, and kept in touch, and we were talking, catching up, and he was like, "Oh, I'm doing these demos." He's like, "I'll come down to the studio and record them." So we did that. He was like, "Well, I'll put the album out. I'll press the album and everything, and the studio's for free, but we don't pay royalties. We just give you some copies or whatever." And there's like, "Oh,
Mm,
good deal."
mm.
But so there wasn't a band, when I did the first album.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lineup of people prepared. There wasn't a band. It was, obviously Dominic was there and Costas, and then everyone else I met through the process.
Right.
But yeah, Dominic, he's one of my best mates in the business.
Well, Portishead and Mogwai, you can't go far wrong with that.
But because of their involvement, people thought it was a Electric Wizard Portishead Mogwai supergroup, and it's like I had to live with that for so long, thinking I'm just letting people down because they're going to expect it to sound like something and it's not.
So, are there any plans for the rest of the year live-wise? Is there anything coming up festival season?
It's it's tough, man. It's really tough now. I hope so. We've had a couple of false starts with booking agents in the past
Mhm.
couple of years. we were booked to do a tour the end of what was it this year? Yeah, it was this year, actually, this past year that we were supposed to do in November.
Hmm.
Um, and that got cancelled. So
Yeah.
we would do it 2023, we're supposed to do a co-headliner with Gals Weird, which are my other
Hmm.
band family. That was all to do with post-COVID bullshit,
Yeah.
finances, no promoter wanting to give the fees and all that kind of stuff, which they're still using that yardstick to beat everyone with, Oh,
Hmm.
advance ticket sales, blah, blah, blah.
Oh yeah.
Cost of everything's going up. The promoters don't want to pay any more money out.
True
Although
that.
people are still coming to the gigs,
Hmm.
it's
True
crazy.
that.
Um, Last year the tour got cancelled because of, well, there's no way around it to say this, but we got cancelled just because of I posted something on social media in February that was about Aaron Bushnell, the guy that set himself on fire in protest of
Hmm.
the side, and we got cancelled for it. It's as simple as that. It's a guy, a promoter in Leipzig.
Hmm.
Um, they said we had to delete our social media posts and stuff like that if we wanted to play, and I was like, no, that's not going to happen.
No.
Called, I had, I mean, I've had so much abuse being called anti-Semitic and a scumbag. I've had threatening messages sent to me and all kinds of stuff. And anyway, we don't have to go into that, but yeah, and the outcome was if we didn't delete that post, we had to do another post that was pro-Israel. It's never going to happen. I mean,
No.
it's crazy. I even tried talking to the guy on the phone. So it's not like I wasn't prepared to speak to anyone. Or,
Hmm.
I was like, we're a rock and roll band. We don't preach from the stage or anything. If we preach about anything, it's about animal abuse or something. It
Hmm.
was like you don't see it's plastered everywhere. Anything. My personal views are my personal views. I'm not going on stage to preach about anything. No one's got any reason to be scared
Hmm.
because he thought we were going to turn up flag flying and attack them because why.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's the victim playing thing, right?
Sure.
That's what
Definitely.
it was. That's all it was. Some guy playing the victim in Leipzig. But that's one thing. I don't care about that. He can play victim all he likes, whatever.
Hmm.
The problem is when he mucked us about, and that Leipzig show was a decent paying show, which subsidized some of the others
Yeah,
around it.
exactly.
And the routing of the tour depending on that show, they left it and left it and left it, and then they cancelled or they made it impossible for us to play it.
Hmm.
Then two or three other shows fell apart
Hmm.
around it. That left us with a big gap in the tour. And we couldn't fill it because they left it to last minute, and the whole tour gets cancelled.
Hmm.
And that's what we're faced with.
Yeah. And it's so hard for a touring band these days, and people don't realize how many factors can go into like just making a tour happen, which is why everyone's got to go out and like
Yeah,
support the people who do make it happen because like
but
it's so
it,
hard.
I mean, it is crazy. We're still finding it hard. I think we've been pretty much blacklisted, you know, for,
Mm,
for just stupid shit like that.
mm,
But we went out last year. We played some shows. Dresden. The place was like it was big venue, full of people. It was amazing shows. All the club shows were really good. The festival shows were fucking huge and great.
mm.
We had a really good reception. We had a really good time. There's
Awesome.
there's no reason why we can't be doing this. But we
Mm.
find it so damn difficult.
Yeah.
It's
No.
because of obviously we've got the Brexit as well, and the
Yeah.
cost of the traveling carnets and everything, the tax thing, we can't get around that. And
Mm.
there's a I can only be out of the country for so long, out of the year, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like it's tough enough as it is. Musicians, we're bands and stuff, especially underground music. We're bottom
Definitely.
we're bottom of the pile anyway. I don't expect to be like every time we try to do something, we get kicked in the balls with something else.
No,
But
true.
that's what it's like. You know. So anyway, yeah. Sorry, your
Yeah.
question. We do. We hopefully we do. So we're talking to a new booking agent now.
Awesome.
Things are looking positive. We have a trip that's hopefully soon to be confirmed for maybe August. I think a short one. I
Cool.
think, uh, and then we're going to look to tour later in the year. And obviously we have this new album, so that might be released later in the year as well. So
Amazing, amazing. Right. Now I'm ending all my interviews with this one question. I asked Dave Lombardo from Slayer this just earlier on this week.
all right,
You have to put a tune on the national curriculum that every kid has to hear before they're 18. Any genre, what tune would you put on the national curriculum as essential listening for a formative child?
Fucking hell.
Had
But yeah,
all kinds of answers.
but and you can only pick one.
Well, I mean, Dave Lombardo did a couple.
I mean, Bad Moon Rising, Credence Clearwater Revival,
Killer. Yeah.
Kings of Our Frontier by Adam and the Ants.
Nice.
Um, Pretty much all of the rudimentary P&I catalogue.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. I'll take that. Well, it's been an absolute joy to speak to you today. I had to speak to you after like playing your album almost every day since I got it. So
I really appreciate that, mate. And yeah, it's really nice to hear that you're digging the album and stuff. So,
oh
but
yeah.
wait to hear the new one.
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait. I can't wait.
It's such a cliche, I know, but
Oh no, it's
it's
it's fabulous, mate. Thank you so much for being with me today.
it's a pleasure. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, so thanks for the support as well.
No problem. Hopefully see you on tour.